Okay, good tavach everyone. We're going to start at the very top of Daf Chavav Amud Aleph. Tajma. Now this is a kasha on Rav Shilo. Rav Shilo said that the zrika, the tzitz is maratza even if it was done b'mezid. The only difference is the tumah itself. Tzitz is maratza only if the tumah was b'shaygeg, but not if it was b'mezid. So tashma, dam shenitma, if the blood became tamei, uzrakai b'shaygeg hurtza, it's accepted if it was sprinkled b'shaygeg, b'mezid lo hurtza, but if it was done b'mezid, it's not accepted. So that's not like Rabbi Shila. Rabbi Shila says that the tzitz is maratza whether the zrika was done b'shaygeg or b'mezid. Says the Gemara, we have to reinterpret it. Hachi kamer, dam shenitma, if the blood becomes tamei, uzrakai, and he sprinkles it, then like Reb Shila says, bein b'shaygeg, bein b'mezid, it's accepted. But the original tumah, only nitma b'shaygeg hurtza, only if it became tamei b'shaygeg, does the tzitz maratza, b'mezid lo hurtza. Okay, new Mishnah. Can you do the kmitza if the shirayim get ruined? Nitmu shireha, if the remainder becomes tamei, nisrifu shireha, or it became burnt, or avdu shireha, or it got lost. Kamidas Rabbi Eliezer ksher. Rabbi Eliezer holds that we could do the zrikas hadam even if the basar is missing. So here too, we could do the kmitza even though the shirayim is missing. But a kamidas Rabbi Yeshua psula. But according to Rabbi Yeshua, who says that if the basar is missing, you can't do the zrika, here too, if something happens to the shirayim, you can't do the kmitza. Amarav, v'hu shenitmu kol shirat. Even Rabbi Yeshua, who says that you can't do the kmitza, that's only if all of the shirayim become tamei. Aval miksa shirah like, but if there's a kazayas left of the shirayim, then even according to Rabbi Yeshua, you could do the kmitza. Now, kasol kadaitach, the Gemara assumed that this that it's good if there's a kazayas left is only by nitma in, only if it became tamei. Ovid v'saraf like, but if it was lost or burnt, it's not good if a little bit is left. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. My kasavar, ikasavar shira milsahi, that it's good if something is left, then what should it make a difference? Afilu ovid v'saraf nami. Even if it gets lost or burnt, it should also be okay if there's a kazayas left. And ikasavar shira la milsahi, if you'll say a little bit is not good. And the only reason why tamei is good, v'nitma my time demratza tzitz, so then why does there have to be a shirayim that's not tamei? Iachi kol shirah nami, even if all the shirayim became tamei, it should be good because the tzitz should be maratza. So the Gemara says, you're right. It's not just by tumah, it's by arvad and sarf also. La'olam kesavar shira milsi. Rabbi Yeshua holds that if there's a kazayas left, it's good by tumah, by aveda, and by sreifa. The nitma v'hu adin la'avid v'saraf. The haida kama nitma, so then why does it say nitma? Reishayo nakit, because nitma is the first case. Kedetanya, Rabbi Yeshua Aimer, kol ha'zvachim sheb'Torah. All korbanos in the Torah shenishtayim mehem kazayas basar or kazayas chaylev, that there's left a kazayas of meat, or a kazayas of the sacrificial portions, zarek is adam. However, kechatzi zayis basar, kechatzi zayis chaylev, a half a zayis of basar and a half a zayis chaylev, that's no good, because you can't combine achilas adam and achilas mizbeach. Ein a zarek is adam. Except by an oila, because the basar also goes on the mizbeach. Uba oila, afilu kazayis basar, kazayis chaylev is good, zarek is adam, because that all goes on the mizbeach. It's all the same. It's all burnt on the mizbeach. Uba mincha, but if there's left of the mincha, afilu kula kayemes lo yizrek. But if there's left of the mincha, even if the whole mincha is left, you can't be zarek the dam. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about mincha? Mincha ma avidite. What are you talking about mincha? Says the Gemara, we're talking about a carbon that is accompanied by minchas nesachim. Amra papa minchas nesachim. Certain carbonas are accompanied by flour and by the wine. So I might think if there's no meat, no chaylev, but the mincha is kayemes, so kedai tachamina, hayil bahadei zevach kasi, since it comes together with the carbon, I might think kegufe the zivcha damya. It's like the zevach itself, kamash malan. The Gemara says that according to Rabbi Yeshua, it's also you could also do the zrika if there's some chaylev left. Menani mili. How do I know this? So I'm Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Yishmael Mataba, and they had this. This came originally from Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. You could smoke up the chaylev if that's all you have. In other words, you don't have the basar. You could smoke it up as a sweet smell to Hashem. Chaylev v'afal pi she'ein basar, says the Gemara. Okay, that's the fat. What about the other sacrificial portions? The diaphragm, the kidneys. Ashkachan chaylev yoseres ushtei kloyes menalan. What about the diaphragm? We used to call it the lobe of the liver and the two kidneys. So says the Gemara, because the ktaniyu b'mincha afilu kuli kayemes al yizrach. The minchas nesachim, even if it's all intact, you can't do the zrika. That's only because of the mincha you can't do the zrika. Mincha de lo yizrach. Ha yoseres ushtei kloyes, but the lobe of the liver of the two kidneys, you can. The Gemara says, Minalan. How do we know that this is good also? Rabbi Yochanan the day Amar, Rabbi Yochanan himself explains, it says, L'reach nichayach. If there's anything left that gives a sweet smell, a sweet aroma, kol she'atamala l'reach nichayach. Now it has to say chaylev, and it also has to say reach nichayach. V'itzrich l'michtav chaylev, v'itzrich l'michtav l'reach nichayach. Because of chaylev, if it would say chaylev, I would think only chaylev, but not the lobe of the liver and the two kidneys. I would think chaylev in Yosef Shtei Kloyes Lai, because Rachman reach nichayach. But if it said reach nichayach, I might think to include even the mincha, because Rachman reach nichayach have amina afilo mincha, so therefore because Rachman a chaylev. Okay, new Mishnah. Shaloi b'klei shareis pasel. If the kaimitz, after taking the kmitza, you have to put it into a klei shareis to sanctify it. Shaloi b'klei shareis pasel. If you don't sanctify the kmitza in a klei shareis, it's pasel. Rabbi Shimon machshir. Rabbi Shimon says it's okay. Another halacha. Hikter kumtza pamayim. If you do the kmitza in two halves, you offer one half and then you offer the other half. Ksheira, it's kosher. Now, Reb Shimon said that it's good even if you don't put the kmitza afterwards in a klei shareis. What's the reason of Reb Shimon? This Gemara is going to give us three different reasons for Reb Shimon. Reb Yehuda b'rei Reb Chia. My time with Reb Shimon. What's the reason of Reb Shimon? Says the Gemara Amakra. It says the mincha kodesh kadashimi. The mincha is holy of holies. Kachatas v'cha'asham. Sometimes like a sin offering, sometimes like a guilt offering. Bala oivda biyad. If you want to do it with your hand, without a klei shareis, just want to put it straight on the mizbech with the hand, so then you have to do it. Then it's kechatas, where you have to do it with your right hand like a chatas, but yamin kechatas. But kli, if you want to do it with a keli, then it could even be with the left hand, oivda b'smo ka'asham. Remember, by an asham, the kohen puts oil in the left hand of another kohen and dips into it. So if he's going to do it with a keli, he could do it the left hand like an Ashim. But the bottom line is you see over here that Reb Shimon holds, if you want, you could do it with the hand, without being mekadesh it in a klei sharetz. That's one reason. That's the reason of Reb Yehuda Bereid Reb Chia. Now we have Reb Yanai. Reb Yanai Aimer. Reb Yanai says, Kevin shekomtzu miklei sharetz. He holds that originally the mincha was in a klei sharetz. Once you take it out of the klei sharetz with your hand, since it was already in the klei sharetz, so there's no reason to be mekadesh it in another klei sharetz, but rather maleyu maktiro, you could put it up on the and smoke it up on the mizbeach, afilu b'hamayna, even putting it into your belt, v'afilu b'mekedesh shel cheres, even with an earthenware pot. That's the second shot. And now the third shot, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Aimer, no. Everybody agrees that you have to put the kmitza into a klei sharetz. Even Reb Shimon. B'kaimet sheton kiddush, everybody agrees. Hakol moedim b'kaimet sheton kiddush. The only question is that the Tanna Kama holds that you have to use the klei sharetz to put it on the mizbeach afterwards. And Reb Shimon says that you only have to be mekadesh in the klei sharetz, but then you could put it on the mizbeach without the klei sharetz. So we have three opinions. So Meisvei, this is going to be an attack on the first opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Bereid Rav Chia. Meisvei, hekter chalavim ve'ivarim ve'etzim, smoking up fats, limbs, and wood, shehelon, that's put on the mizbeach, bein biyad, bein b'keli, whether with the hand, whether with a keli, bein biyamin, bein b'smal, whether with the right hand or the left hand, ksherin. HaKaimitz v'akteris v'alavayna, the kaimitz, the kteris, and the lavayna, again, shehelon bein biyad, bein b'keli, bein biyamin, bein b'smal, ksherin. So obviously this is going according to Reb Shimon. But here we see that Reb Shimon holds that it could be the left hand, even if you do it the hand, while Rav Chia Bereid Rav Yehuda Bereid Rav Chia said that if you do it with the hand, it has to be like the chatas, it has to be biyamin. Amalach Rav Yehuda Bereid Rav Chia, no, let's start in Ketani. We have to split it up and read it in two sides. Biyad, biyamin. If it's done with the hand, it has to be done with the right hand. B'kli, if it's done with a keli, then it could be done bein biyamin, bein b'smal, because it could be like an oshim that's done with the left hand. So now another kasha. Tajma. Kamsai shaloi miklei sharetz. If he takes the kmitza without a klei sharetz. No, he takes it out from a regular keli. The kitchoy shaloi b'klei sharetz, and he's mekadesh it without a klei sharetz. The helo v'ktiroi shaloi b'klei sharetz, and then he smoked it up, brought it up and smoked it up without a klei sharetz pasul. Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon makshirin. Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon permits it, but matan keli. As long as it was put in a regular keli, it doesn't have to be a klei sharetz. Now that's clearly not like Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says that the kmitza has to be dedicated in a klei sharetz, even according to Rav Shimon. Ema, rather, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak will read it mematan keli ve'elach, from placing it in the keli and onward. Then you don't need a klei sharetz. As long as when you placed it in the klei sharetz, you placed it in, that's enough. Tajma. The chachamim aimim, kaimitz toin klei sharetz. The kmitza needs a klei sharetz. Ketzad. Kaimtzoi miklei sharetz. You take the kmitza from a klei sharetz. Or mekatshoi b'klei sharetz, and you sanctify it in a klei sharetz. Or malay or maktiroi b'klei sharetz, and you put it on the mizbeach with a klei sharetz. That's a simple way. That's the chacham. Reb Shimon says, Kaven shekomtzu miklei shares, once you take the kmitza from the klei shares, malo maktira shaloi b'klei shares v'dai. It's enough, and you could put it straight on. Again, this is clearly not like Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak, who says that everybody agrees that you have to put it into the klei shares. Ema kaven shekomtzu, so we amended. Ema kaven shekomtzu v'kitcha b'klei shares, malo maktira, and then you could put it up v'daya, and it's enough. Tajma, another question. Kamatz biyaminai, if you did the kmitza with your right hand, v'nosan bismailai, then you put it in your left hand. So the din is yazel yaminai, you should return it to your right hand. Bismailai, if while it was in the left hand, chishav aleha, you had a machshava, whether bein chutz mekayme, which never makes it kares, bein chutz zman, or even if you have in mind to smoke it up after its time, but since you did it while it was in your left hand, the din is pasul vein by kares. Biyaminai, this we add, by the way, the word biyaminai. Biyaminai, if while it was in his right hand, chishav aleha chutz mekayme, you had in mind that you were going to smoke it up after its time, so that's pasul vein by kares. Chutz l'zmanai, which is machshava pigel v'chayav and love kares. Divrei Reb Eliezer Reb Shimon. The Rabbanan hold that once you put it in the left hand, the Chacham Oimrim kaven shenosnu l'smail, once you put it in the left hand, paslatay matanasai, it's disqualified. Why? Because they hold that you have to be mekadosh in a keli. When you put it in the left hand, it's like it fell on the floor. And if blood falls on the floor, you can't scoop it up and do something with it. My timer. Mishum debay kitcha bekeli. The kaven shenisano l'smail, and once you put it in the left hand, it's nasa kedam shenishpach mitzaber behem ala ritzvah. It's like blood that's spilled from the neck of the animal, v'asafoi and shapasel. Now what does Reb Shimon hold? B'chlal de Reb Elazar, Reb Shimon loy bo matan keli, because they say that when you switch it back to the right hand, it's good. So obviously, they don't need it to be mekudesh in a keli, right? So, tiyufta de Reb Nachman, that's clearly a tiyufta of Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak that says that it has to be mekudesh in a keli, tiyufta. Reb Yehuda b'rei Reb Chia, Messiah. It's good according to Reb Yehuda b'rei Reb Chia, because Reb Yehuda b'rei Reb Chia says that what you do in a keli can be done with the left hand, right? Reb Yanai leima tavi tiyufta. Reb Yanai, who says that the placement of the kmitza can be done even with his belt, and even with a mekeda shel cheresh, l'chayra, this is a refutation. You wouldn't have to return it to the right hand. L'Rab Yanai leima tahavi tiyufta. So the Gemara says, you're right. I don't hold like this teaching. I hold the other teaching that says you could do it bein biyad, bein b'keli, bein biyamin, bein b'smal. Amalach Rab Yanai, another Amad Ketana de Hector, who says that you could smoke it up and do everything bein biyad, bein b'keli, bein biyamin, bein b'smal. V'lavlit stadim ketani, and I don't say that you read it halfway, like if it's b'keli b'yamin, if it's with the hand, it could be b'smal. I learn it. It's going both b'keli, it could always be done b'smal. Okay. Now, hikter kumtza pamayim ksheir. If you do the kmitza in two parts, instead of smoking it up together, you smoke half and then another half. It's kosher. Now, what about if you do it in four pieces, four parts? Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, pamayim v'loy pamei pamayim. Only in two parts, but not in more than two parts. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, pamayim v'afilu pamei pamayim. It could even be done in four parts. It could be even done in 6 parts. You see, Rabbi Yochanan holds that there's no minimum for it to be considered Haktorah. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says that in order for it to be considered Aktara, there has to be a Kazayas. So, my beinayu, Amar Reb Zera, yesh kol mitzpachas mishnei zeisim. Can there be a kmitza of less than 2 zeisim? V'yesh Aktara pchusa mikazayas. And could there be a Aktara of less than a Kazayas? Ika beinayu. Rabbi Shua ben Levi saber ein kol mitzpachas mishnei zeisim. There's no kmitza less than 2 zeisim, and therefore you could do it in 2 parts, because each part will be a zayis. Ve'ein aktara prusim a kazayis. There's no smoking up less than a kazayis. Rabbi Yochanan holds that yesh kai mitzpachas mishnei zeisim. There is a kmitza of less than 2 kazayis. Ve'yesh aktara prusim a kazayis, and it has a halacha of aktara. Even if it's less than a kazayas, it still has a halacha, and therefore you could put it on even in many pieces. Now, we know that when you do the kmitza, you're allowed to eat the shirayim. At what point are you allowed to eat the shirayim? Itmar koimetz, when you put the kmitza on the altar, on the mizbech, me'emosei matir shirayim b'achila. At what point is the shirayim permitted to be eaten? Rab Chanina Amar Miship Moshel Bayasar. As soon as the fire takes hold of any part of it. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mishitatzis Bay Ha'ar Berubai. You can only eat the shirayim when the fire takes hold of the majority of the kmitza. Amalei Rav Yehuda Rabba Bar Rav Yitzchak. Az Baruch Taimad Rabbi Yochanan. I'm going to explain to you the reason of Rabbi Yochanan. Amakra, the pasuk says about Sdoim v'Amayra, v'hinei ola kitar ha'aretz, smoke rose from the land, kikitar ha'kivshon, like the smoke of a furnace. Now, smoke of a furnace only rises when the majority of the furnace is lit up. Ein kivshon malakitar achetatzes ha'or berubai, until the fire takes hold of the majority of the fuel. And therefore, Aktara also, it has to take hold of the majority in order for the shirayim to be permitted. Amalei Rabin Barav Ada L'Rava, Imrei Talmidach, your student said, Amar Rav Amram, in the name of Rav Amram, Tanya, Ainli ela dvarim shedarken likarev b'layla. I only know things that are offered in the night, k'gayin evarim u'bedarim, the limbs, the fats, shemalon u'maktirim u'bayah shemesh, you could put it up and smoke it up after sunset, u'misachlin v'holchin kol halayla kula, and it burns and digests the entire night. Dvarim shedarken likarev b'yayin, things that are brought in the day, k'gayin ha'kaimetz, the kmitza, Valavina, the frankincense, Vaktaris, the incense, or Minchas Kahanim, a Mincha V'Kayin, that's all burnt on the altar, or Minchas Kayin Mashiach, that's the Kayin Gadol's Mincha, half in the morning and half in the afternoon, Minchas Nesachim, the Mincha of Libation, Shemalon Maktira Mebaya Shemesh, that you could put it up after sunset. So the Gemara asks incredulously, after sunset? This has to be brought in the day. Ella im boy Hashemesh. It means at the setting of the sun. Mamash, a minute before sunset, which is a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says it has to take hold of the majority. So, and it could digest and go the whole night. Minayin, this is the law of the Oila Riba, that these things also could continue and burn the entire night. But it's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Va'im ba shemesh, if it's done at the moment of the setting of the sun, right before, loy mishkachas lo shetatzis ha'or beruba, you can't have it that the fire will ignite the majority. Says the Gemara, you're right. In order for it to become accepted by the Mizbeach, it's enough the fire should take hold a part of it. Loy kasha kan liklait. For to be accepted by the Mizbeach, it's enough a little bit. Kan lahater, to permit the shirayim to be eaten, then it has to be the majority. Rabbi Lazar masnila mibah hashemesh. Rabbi Lazar Taka teaches it that it could be after sunset. But he's not talking about putting it on in the first place. Of course, that has to be during the day. Or mukim la bepoikim, for that which shoots off the mizbeach. V'chein ki asa Rav Dimi amar Reb Yanai bepoikim. That which shoots off the mizbeach, you could return it even in the night. Says the Gemara, mi amar Reb Yanai haki, that it has to be returned. V'amar Reb Yanai ketoris shepaka mi al gabi mizbeach, incense that shoots off the mizbeach, afilu curtain sheba, even a whole granule, eimar zirinaisan, you don't have to return it. V'tani Rav Chanina bar min Yomid b'derei Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov, it says asher toichel ha'esh es ha'oila ala mizbeach, that the fire should consume the oila on the mizbeach. Ikule oila atemazer, partial digested oila you have to return. V'atemazer ikule ketairis. Says Gemara, you're right. Take out ketairis. Sami mekan ketairis. Amar Rabbi Asi, ki poshit Reb Eliezer b'menachos. When Reb Eliezer was spreading out and explaining menachos, boy hachi. It's an interesting shayla. Kaimitz shesidroi, a kmitza that you arranged on the altar, and then you put the wood with the fire on top of it. V'sidr alav es hamarocha. Derech haktara b'kach, is that considered a way of smoking up? It's backwards. Oh, ain't derech haktara b'kach, or is that not the way of haktara? Says Gemara Teku, Tishbi Atatz Kushis Ubayis. A similar question. Vaychizkiah, a varum shesidron, limbs that you arranged on the mizbeach, and then v'sidr alein as hamarach, and you put the wood on top of it. Ala eitzim amarachmana, does the Torah say it has to be on the wood? Dafka ala eitzim, it has to be on the wood. Oidilma came the chsiv krach, asher toichel ha'eshes ha'oila mizbeach, that the fire consumes the oil on the mizbeach. It doesn't say it has to be on the wood. You can do it either way you want. Teku tishbi yataretz kushis v'bayis. Okay, we have one daf in the books.